Folks, we welcome you to McCary Park. And for the HiToms, why play one game when you can play two? That's what the HiToms have been doing as of late. They have yet another doubleheader, this time against crosstown rivals in the Asheboro Zookeepers. Both West Division teams are in desperate need of a victory to climb up the standings. I'm AJ Myers. Alongside me tonight is Adam Oppenheim. Adam, this park is under construction, but it looks pretty nice, the field they'll be playing on.
Yeah, it's a really nice turf field here in McCary Park. And not too far of a drive for the HiToms, just half an hour, which is the closest to any other ballpark historic Finch Field is. And it's McCary Park. And it's a game that both teams desperately need. They're tied with each other in the standings in the West Division at 6 and 10, along with the Mustangs. Those three are in the bottom. Following them is Boone, and then the top three in the West, which are sort of separating themselves. But this is one of those tiebreaker games you need, and momentum games, because, I mean, let's face it, the HiToms, they're going to be playing the Mustangs a lot, and also this Asheboro team.
And all three of those teams, as you mentioned, Adam, are on the wrong side of the West Division standings. So how could the HiToms possibly gain some momentum? Well, the starting lineup looks pretty promising in terms of the bats. For 1, 2, 3, it's all players wearing numbers 1, 2, and 3. Starting off is Kane Kepley. After him will be Wilver Dung. He'll be the DH tonight. Then will be Noah McCarthy. That's a move up in him to the lineup, up to third. In the cleanup spot will be Juan Correa. Following him will be J.D. Suarez. Then will be the catcher Dario Astudillo. And then the bottom of the order goes as follows: Jake Coonan, Dylan Lewis, and Andrew Fernandez. And on the bump tonight for the HiToms is Jay Dill. We believe he will go the whole game. That is the plan from HiToms head coach Sean Stevens. Of course, the HiToms schedule's thick and fast. A lot of games coming up. They have Chinese Taipei tomorrow, where we believe there'll be a lot of pitchers in that game. So in this shortened game, you just really are hoping just one pitcher can go the distance.
Yeah, and they're also playing a doubleheader on Thursday, so looking at a bunch of different arms tomorrow. Probably not a ton today. Like you mentioned, that's the plan. But, I mean, if Dill can really go 7 innings, you feel like that's going to be probably 100 pitches or more, which isn't exactly the best thing. But, you know, if he's willing to do it, you might as well sort of stretch him out. Pitches at Clemson, and is one of the best pitchers on this HiToms roster. But he's only had one appearance so far this year.
So for the Zookeepers, a lot of these names will probably sound familiar. They've been in this lineup before against the HiToms. Leading off is Jay Dillard. After him is Cole Laskowski. And then batting third is Tyler McPeak. In the cleanup spot is Jared Pokrovsky. Following him will be Todd Hudson. Then it will be Alex Labus. And then the bottom of the order is Letton Lackey. And then Dallas Callahan, Carter French rounding things off. And then pitching tonight for the Zookeepers is Ethan Snyder. Snyder against the HiToms. Earlier in the year, it was a HiToms victory over the Zookeepers, but he did strike out 5 Tommy's batters in 2 innings of play, so he can be a threat from the bump. So we'll step aside for a moment, but first pitch is expected around 6 o'clock, which is in about 10 minutes. So in the meantime, we'll be right back. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back to McCary Park here in Asheboro, North Carolina, as the Zookeepers get ready to take on the HiToms. It's the HiToms' first visit to Asheboro this season. I feel like they could have gone earlier this year, but weather has just gotten in the way of a few things for the HiToms this season thus far. But it is a beautiful, picture-perfect day. Blue skies, only a few clouds, so we should have no problem getting through both games. Adam, any early expectations in this first game?
Well, I'm going to see how the HiToms adjust to the turf. They play on the dirt at historic Finch Field, and they're a team that's been ridiculed with some bad errors, to say the least. And if the HiToms can play good defense, they're in, all these games, but it's been a couple game-changing defensive plays. And on the turf, they should probably happen less often. And because the HiToms bats are going to deliver, and really it's going to be all about these pitchers. When you play a 7-inning game, if you give up in the big inning, the game just sways so far apart. If you're up by 5 runs in a 7-inning game, your win probability is just so much higher than when you play those extra 2 innings in 9.
One of the other times the HiToms have played on a turf field was against the Boone Bigfoots, and of course at the High Point Rocker Stadium, where there will be tomorrow. So maybe this game against the Zookeepers comes at the perfect time. They can get ready and prep to play Chinese Taipei tomorrow night. So starting things off for the HiToms will be Kane Kepley. He's really impressed out on the field, out in center field. That's where he is tonight, and in the batter's box as well. And Ethan Snyder will be dealing the pitches to start things off for the Zookeepers. On the year, Snyder has a ERA of 3.11 in 3 appearances. And he's only given up 3 runs in those 3 appearances, so it can be a threat. His first offering to Kepley is called for a strike.
Yeah, and Kane Kepley, all 6 games of the HiToms, been on base in all those games, including 5 games with hits in them, 5 of the 6.
Snyder's next pitch to Kepley is hit on just foul near the first base. The outfield for the Zookeepers from left to right in the infield is Jay Dillard, Alex Lodis at shortstop, Cole Laskowski at second base, Tyler McPeak over at first. The outfield from left to right is Carter French, Leighton Lackey, and then Jarrett Porowski. Kepley looks at that pitch, brings the count to 1-2 with no outs here in the top of the first. Snyder sets and deals the 1-2. It's just chopped foul by Kepley behind home plate. HiToms tonight wearing the blue tops with white pants and blue socks. One-two hits Kepley right in the back, so that'll put a man on base.
Yeah, now that extends his on-base streak with the HiToms to 7. All 7 games he's reached base, but that's what you need out of the leadoff guy, and it brings up one of the best hitters in the Coastal Plain League, and Will Verdung.
Verdung DHing tonight for the HiToms. So with Kane Kepley over at first, Verdung will look at his first pitch from Ethan Snyder. Delivery from Snyder is called for a strike, fastball right down the middle. Next delivery from Snyder is just on the outside. Chest level to Verdung, so it's a 1-1 count with no outs here in the top of the first. Snyder's 1-1 is high for a ball, so it's a now 2-1 count. Awaiting Will Verdung is Noah McCarthy. That's a jump up in the lineup for him. In his early appearances with the HiToms, they've all been in the bottom side of the lineup. 2-1 from Verdung is struck foul out towards right field.
And you have a feeling for McCarthy he's going to sit behind Verdung, because a lot of teams have not been pitching to Will Verdung, because right now he's sitting 6th in the league in average. But Nolan McCarthy has that power behind him from Kentucky. So I would think he would stay in the top 5 of this order the rest of the season.
Small kick from Snyder. That one's on the outside. So it's a full count with no outs for Will Verdung. Full count delivery from Snyder. It goes outside, so the HiToms have 2 aboard here in the top of the first inning.
Yeah, and these are the chances right here. First and second no outs in the first that are bigger in 7-inning games, as you have less opportunities to score.
HiToms have had no problem scoring in recent games. It's been the defense and bullpen that have really hurt them at times. So McCarthy will go to work with 2 on base. Delivery from Snyder is way outside for a ball. Kane Kepley's at first. Wilver Dung is over. Kane Kepley's at second, excuse me. Wilver Dung's over at first. 1-0 from Snyder. McCarthy showed bunt. It gets away, and both runners will advance. That one got away from Dallas Callahan.
And that was a ball that was just spiked way in front of home plate. And that bounce off the turf it's deadly. And allows the HiToms to have 2 in scoring position really early on in this game.
Sun is illuminating the entire turf, so everyone's got sun in their eyes as that one's hit foul by Nolan McCarthy. Umpire needed to collect a few balls there, but he's now ready to go. So 2 on base for the HiToms. The delivery from Snyder, again, shoots low into that turf. Dallas Callahan able to collect that one, but it's a 3-1 count for Nolan McCarthy. Snyder's 3-1 is fired in on the outside, and the HiToms have the bases loaded for Juan Correa here in the top of the first inning.
This is one of those ideal starts to get up a few runs before your pitcher even takes them on in Jay Dill. And we've seen the HiToms score early on, and it's just been continuing it throughout the game. But if you get a big inning here, it could help you a lot.
Cleanup man Juan Correa looks at his first pitch on the outside for a ball. Correa can hit balls far. He's had a few home runs this year. Snyder kicks his leg, delivers the pitch, and trend continues for Ethan Snyder in throwing pitches that are just on the outside of the zone for another ball.
And you mentioned it, Correa's homer this year went 405, and that would clear the left field wall by a mile.
Swing and a miss there from Correa, so still ahead in the count, 2-1. With no outs and the bases loaded for the HiToms. Kane Kepley is over at third, Wilver Dung's at second, and Nolan McCarthy's at first. 2-1 offering from Snyder. Check swing from Correa. So 3-1 count now. Correa swings his bat, taps the base, and is ready to go. So too is Snyder. The delivery from him, and the HiToms have 1 run aboard as Juan Correa is walked, and Kane Kepley can easily score. So it's 1-0 HiToms here in the top of the first.
And we've seen the HiToms struggle with walks, but this is one of the worst starts you can imagine if you're Asheboro, because not even making the HiToms put the ball in play. And we've seen it burn the HiToms, and right now there's already going to be a meeting on the mound, which I think is a very smart move by the Zookeepers. So you're talking about a hit by pitch, a walk, a couple wild pitches that led to a walk, and now another walk.
Not a comfortable start at all for Ethan Snyder, who was throwing strikes the last time he played the HiToms. So after this mound visit's done, Snyder's going to have to face J.D. Suarez. And as we were mentioning early on, the HiToms batting order is not easy to face. They can definitely hit the ball, and Snyder is not even allowing them to hit the ball this far.
Yeah, and Snyder coming into this game, 15 strikeouts, 7 walks, 3 and a hit by pitch in this inning, so it's already at the average he really does for a start here in the first, so he's got to find a way to lock back in.
And only a 7-inning first game to here today. First pitch to J.D. Suarez is called for a strike. And then the next game will follow this one about 30 minutes after. Should be, we're hoping, only 30 minutes, and that will also just be a 7-inning game. 1-0 from Snyder is hit on by J.D. Suarez, gets past Snyder. Another run will score for the HiToms. The throw over to first is not in time, so the bases remain loaded for the Tommies as Will Verdung was able to score, and rather it will just be 2 on base.
A fielder's choice for Suarez, but who beat it out easily. Runners at second, so HiToms now have a 2-0 lead.
So Nolan McCarthy will be at first, and then J.D. Suarez will be over. Nolan McCarthy will be at third, and J.D. Suarez will be over at first. And Dario Ostadia is up to bat in a 2-0 HiToms lead. Ostadia's first pitch is a swing and a miss from him. With 1 out here in the first, next delivery from Snyder is hit foul by Ostadia.
And he could really use it. He's been scuffling big time. He's 0 for his last 13 at the plate, is Dario.
0-2. J.D. Suarez is on the move. There's no throw, and he will be comfortably safe at second base. So HiToms have second and third with now 2 outs here in the top of the first as Dario Ostadio struck out.
I know it's kind of weird to say, but like Ostadio was maybe trying to swing the bat to help Suarez out, but he was already going to be at second, and he swung at a pitch that was like shoulder level and inside. So a second out, but Suarez advances to second. And here's someone at the HiToms. We're very confident early on. Jake Kuna has cooled off quite a bit.
Like Ostadio, Kuna could really do with a base hit here. It would help the HiToms greatly as they're up 2-0 in the top of the first. Delivery from Snyder is hit foul by Jake Coonan. Coonan, the Princeton product. Snyder kicks his leg, delivers the pitch. It's low and outside on the right-hand side. That's where a lot of Snyder's balls have been going, on that right side of the plate. So he finds himself in a 1-1 count now. 1-1 from Snyder is a swing and a miss from Jake Coonan, and he goes behind 1-2.
Yeah, and Coonan's 2 for his last 18. And remember, early on in the season, he was one of the hottest players in the Coastal Plain League and looking to try to barrel something. And the key is not chasing out of the zone.
So Juan Correa is over at third. J.D. Suarez is at second as Jake Coonan strikes out. So that'll end this top half of the first. But the HiToms get off to a good start. They got men on base. They're able to score 2 runs. We'll be back for the bottom half as the Asheboro Zookeepers bats come up. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back to McCary Park, getting ready for the bottom of the first between the HBT HiToms and the Asheboro Zookeepers. Tommies have a small 2-0 lead after that first inning of play from them. The Zookeepers will look to answer, starting with Jay Dillard. He will face Jay Dill, who's on the bump tonight for the HiToms, making his second appearance in a Tommies uniform. His first offering to Dillard is called for a strike.
Yeah, and they both play baseball at Clemson, so start off Dill will face his Tigers teammate.
And nearly similar names, Dill and Dillard. 1-0 from Dill. It gets by him, and it's collected by the second baseman. He throws over to first in time for the first out. That was a good catch there by Jake Coonan at second base, and he threw it over to Juan Correa to get the out for Jay Dillard.
Yeah, and if you're Jake Coonan, the bat hasn't been great, but his fielding is what he is also very solid at. That play ranging to his right behind second and makes a beautiful throw over to Correa at first.
So up comes Cole Laskowski. He looks at the first pitch for a ball. 1-0 from Dill. It's called for a strike, so Cole Laskowski finds himself in a 1-1 count. The HiToms defensive lineup goes as follows from left to right in the infield. It's Andrew Fernandez, J.D. Suarez, and it's Jake Coonan at second. Juan Correa over at first, and behind the home plate tonight is Dario Astudillo. In the outfield from left to right is Dylan Lewis, Kane Kepley, and Nolan McCarthy out in right field. Laskowski's now in a hitter's count at 3-1 with one out here in the bottom of the first. Zookeepers tonight wearing brown pants and, I don't know, Adam, what do you say, like an off-white top or brownish top?
Tan, maybe?
Well, no matter what color it is, Cole Laskowski gets walked on the ball from Jay Dill, so there's one aboard for the Zookeepers.
Yeah, I'd call it maybe a tan color.
So now it's Tyler McPeak's turn in the batter's box for the Zookeepers. Jay Dill's first offering to McPeak is high and outside for a ball.
Yeah, and he's the big power hitter in the Zookeepers lineup with 3 home runs on the year.
Dill takes a quick look over at first. It's Laskowski occupying first base. And Laskowski thought about running there. It's a swing and a miss from McPeak. So he's in a 1-1 count now with one out. Dill sets, fires in the 1-1. Check swing from McPeak, called a strike. Dill again peers over to Laskowski, who's got a decent lead. And he delivers the 1-2, and it's a swing and a miss from Laskowski, from McPeak rather, and he strikes out. So there's 2 away for the Zookeepers here in the bottom of the first.
Tonight's cleanup hitter is brought to you by Two Moms and a Mom, the best cleanup hitters in Asheboro. And here comes our cleanup hitter, the right fielder from UPenn, number 18, Jared Pokroski.
So Jared Pokroski will come up in the cleanup spot for the Zookeepers now with 2 outs. Laskowski over at first. Pokroski looks at a first pitch for a ball. Jay Dill just played a few days ago against Forest City. He went 1 inning in that game. Fires in the 1-0, and it's fouled off to the right-hand side.
And I will say in McCary Park, there's not many chances to get a foul ball because pretty much everything is covered up with the top. Most of the seating, some just regular baseball seats, others bleachers.
The way they constructed the grandstands, you're pretty high up, so you get a nice view of the entire field. As Pokroski's now in a 1-2 count. Dill fires over to first. It's Juan Correa occupying first base, and Laskowski is comfortably safe. Delivery from Dill is hit on. It's out to Jake Coonan. He flips it over to J.D. Suarez, and that'll end the first inning. So the HiToms maintain their 2-0 advantage. We'll head to the second. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. We welcome you back to Macari Park here in Asheboro, North Carolina. Dylan Lewis will get things going here in the top of the second for the HiToms. Lewis was away from the team for a bit, but he's back now. Tommy's occupying a 2-0 lead. Ethan Snyder got himself in a bit of trouble in that first inning as Dylan Lewis swings and misses on his first pitch. Got the bases loaded, but he was able to get out of the inning, only allowing 2 runs.
Yeah, I think that's a major positive because he started throwing strikes right after the mound visit.
0-1 to Lewis is high on the outside, so it's a 1-1 count. Dylan Lewis on the year is batting .238 with 8 RBIs. In the bottom of the order for the Tommies as he fouls one to the right-hand side. Hits the, as you were mentioning earlier, Adam, the high netting in the grandstands.
Well, that's how they build, baseball stadiums nowadays. It's extra safety precautions because, baseball's the only sport where you can just get drilled with, a hard baseball, really, or any ball.
1-2 from Dill goes high to that right corner of the plate once again. So it's a 2-2 count with no outs for Dylan Lewis. Dill sets, fires in the 2-2. It's put in fair territory by Dylan Lewis, and he'll have himself a base hit. So once again, the HiToms get a man aboard off the leadoff batter.
Coming to the plate, the third baseman from UT Martin, number 5, Andrew Fernandez.
So Andrew Fernandez will come up to bat now for the Tommies. Snyder sets, delivers it to Fernandez. He puts one out into right field. Borowski's running onto it, and he makes a grab. He had to dive into that one and make the grab, and he gets the first out for the Zookeepers.
Bokorovsky with a great defensive recovery. There was miscommunication between him and Lackey, and then he goes after it the last second, makes a last-ditch dive and grabs it. Dylan Lewis was just dancing in between first or second, had no clue if that ball was going to drop. And Jared ends up making a terrific catch.
So in the second inning, up comes the top half of the HiToms order with Kane Kepley and Dylan Lewis on first base. And Kepley puts that one near the third base line. It goes out to the outfield, and Kepley's got himself a base hit. And just like in the first inning, the HiToms have 2 aboard.
Kane Kepley's just a great hitter. And a good example there is him just taking the ball in the outside corner, punching it through the left side of the infield. And first and second with 1 out. Some people, they try to overpower with homers. But Kane Kepley out of the leadoff spot. He has enough power, but they just need him to get on base through the Tommies.
So up comes the HiToms' most dangerous hitter in Will Verdung. He'll work with 1 out and 2 on base. Delivery from Snyder. Sinks for A ball. It's Dylan Lewis at second, Kane Kepley over at first. 1-0 from Snyder. Similar pitch. Again, is low for a ball. Wolverdong in the hitter's count. Swings and misses big time on that one.
Yeah, that was a 2-0 cut if I've ever seen one. Swinging for the fences. Interesting to note, though, the left field line. 323, but the wall extends a little bit further than usual, 7 or 8 feet, so probably add another 8 feet on top of it. It's probably 16, 17 feet for a wall out in left field.
It'll be easier to hit one out of the park over and right as Dylan Lewis gets called for a strike there, so he's in a 2-2 count now. 2-2 from Snyder. Is a swing and a miss from Wolverdong, so he strikes out. So there's 2 outs now for Noah McCarthy with Dylan Lewis at second and Kane Kepley over at first.
And good job by Snyder picking up a strikeout, especially out of the zone. As Verdung does not strike out a lot in the zone. It'd be the chasing pitches.
So Noah McCarthy started off a chain of walks from Snyder in the first inning. And his first delivery from Snyder to McCarthy is outside for a ball. One out from Snyder is again sinking low, so it's a 2-0 count now for McCarthy, and runners at second and first for the HiToms. Lewis has got a big lead over at second, and Dallas Callahan thought about throwing over, but opted not to. So it's a 3-0 count now for Noah McCarthy. The 3-0 from Snyder is called for a strike. I think Noah McCarthy thought that was a ball and he'd be walking.
I mean, that was outside definitely, but I mean, Snyder's just got to be more near the zone. He does not want to load up the bases again.
Dylan Lewis is running. Noah McCarthy is throwing, and then so both runners are going to be safe there, and Noah McCarthy gets walked.
Yeah, and that's one where you try to know the scouting report. I know Dylan Lewis had a giant jump to third base. It's first of all a shorter throw to third. Second of all, Kane Kepley's the faster of him and Lewis. And so deciding to throw to second, Kepley, even though he didn't get a great jump at all, it was like a delayed steal. He still made it in time.
So Lewis is over at third, and Kepley is at second with Juan Correa up to bat for the HiToms.
And the second straight inning with the bases loaded. This feels like a little bit of early season HiToms offense, but can they capitalize?
1-0 from Snyder's, a swing and a miss from Juan Correa. He was also walked in the first inning. All 3 runners for the HiToms taking leads off their bases. Delivery from Snyder is low for a ball, so it's a 1-2 count with 2 outs, bases loaded for the HiToms here in the top of the second.
Yeah, and last time Snyder threw a breaking ball at Correa, he was way out in front of it.
Correa swings and misses, and he is retired. So the HiToms leave the bases loaded and can't add to their run tally. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. We welcome you back in. It's the HiToms and Asheboro Zookeepers, just starting off the home half of the second inning. It's J. Dill on the bump for the HiToms, and he's facing off against Todd Hudson out of Liberty. 1-0 from Dill. Check swing from Hudson's called a strike. Todd Hudson occupying the red helmet. It's a 1-1 from Dill. It's hit on by Hudson. It's going up, looping up. Kepley's got a read on it. He looks onto it, and then it's Nolan McCarthy running over to it to make the out. So good communication in the outfield there from the HiToms.
And this is definitely a day where you're going to need sunglasses in the outfield. That ball was skied up by Hudson, and good communication by the HiToms outfielders. You have a feeling the sun's going to be a factor in one of these plays in the first game of the doubleheader before it sets for the second game.
Delivery from Dill. He's now facing Alex Lodis. And Lodis follows behind 1-0 with 1 out. Dill sets, fires in that 0-1. It's just on the outside, so it's a 1-1 count with 1 out now and nobody on for the Zookeepers. HiToms probably be kicking themselves in the dugout after leaving the bases loaded. Delivery from Dill, shoots low for a ball. 2-1 now from Dill. It's a swing and a miss, and watch out as Alex Lodis's bat goes flying. And as we were alluding to earlier, very high netting here at this park, and it showed exactly why there is such netting.
That's why you have the nets. That is exactly why. I mean, there's baseballs, and then there's bats flying out of batters' hands, which actually, happens every few games and every once in a while, and now they're going to some more spray to put on that.
Bat didn't break. It just flew right out of Lodis's hands.
Yeah, his grip. Just got to make sure it's not as slippery, that's for sure. But, I mean, it hit the net above the HiToms dugout, but the dugout's obviously open. There's no net, right near the HiToms.
Dugouts are connected right with the bullpen then, so it's a pretty neat setup. As Alex Lodis finds himself in a full count. A payoff delivery from J. Dill. There's a swing and a miss from Lodis, so he's retired, and there's 2 quick outs for the HiToms.
Yeah, and this is what the HiToms need, J. Dill. It's quicker at-bats, especially if he's going to try to go this whole game. And just pitching 1 inning so far. I mean, Sean Stevens, he's seen Dill pitch, a few innings, but not for the HiToms. It's only been 1 appearance in 1 inning.
So it's Leighton Lackey now for the Zookeepers. He shows bunt. It's called for a strike.
Yeah, and the difference between Dill and Snyder is Dill's just throwing a lot of first pitch strikes.
0-1 from Dill is on the outside. So it's a 1-1 count for Lackey. A 2-0 HiToms advantage. Kick up from Dill. That one skims low, so it's a 1-2 count now for Lackey. Lackey, the right-handed batter. Toggles his bat a bit, and he looks at that pitch for a ball, so he finds himself in a 3-1 count now. With Dallas Callahan awaiting him if Lackey can get aboard. The 3-1 from Dill is on the outside. Rather, it was called for a strike, and that upsets many Zookeepers fans here. Lackey was ready to walk over to first, but our home plate umpire thought elsewise.
Yeah, and Lackey's very close to the plate as well, so it did look inside from our vantage point.
Payoff pitch from Dill nearly hits Lackey, and this time he can walk over to first base. So up comes Dallas Callahan. So J. Dill just 1 out away from getting out of this inning with Leighton Lackey at first. Dill's first offering to Lackey is hit on into left field. Dylan Lewis is onto it, and it's a comfortable grab for him. So that ends the second inning. It's a 2-0 game in favor of the HiToms. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back. It's the HiToms and Asheboro Zookeepers. Just witnessed a pretty entertaining game of limbo that a Zookeepers player participated in and nearly won.
I mean, it was a really close competition. I mean, there's limbo and then there's ducking your head, you know?
Yeah, Adam was doing his best limbo refereeing.
Hey, man, they don't call me the ref for nothing.
J.D. Suarez is up to bat now for the HiToms, and his first look at the pitch is on the outside for a ball.
But I will say the festivities in between innings and the intros and stuff, it's been terrific here. For a new stadium, you really couldn't tell besides the construction, but everything else inside, it's working like a smooth operation.
We are nestled right above the press box in the grandstands behind home plate, so we have a great view of everything going on. And J.D. Suarez is in a 1-1 count with no outs. The delivery from Snyder goes low for a ball. So Snyder still struggling to find a strike zone here. As he sets and delivers the 2-1. That one is called for a strike. JD steps out of the batter's box momentarily, taps his bat on home plate, and is ready to go for a 2-2. There is fouled way off behind us.
And I think that's safe to say it's going to be in a construction area, considering most of it is construction behind us. I mean, the fact that they got this ready, though, a stadium to play this year, it's really a job well done.
JD hits one out into center field. Lackey's running onto it, and he makes the grab for the first out.
And that time was a little point out to center field from Snyder. Hung a breaking ball, but it just dropped low enough where Suarez flew it out into center field.
So it's Dario Astudillo now for the HiToms. After J.D. Suarez flew out to center field. Astudillo struck out his last time up. Was back in the first inning. Delivery from Snyder. He's called for a strike. Astudillo rocking the long sleeve tonight as he hits one foul. It's the long sleeve blue compression.
It was funny that ball was hit to the right side. A guy underneath the tent just puts his arms like to the side, like this is coming towards me. I mean, he's not going to get hit with it because the net's right there and it would land on top of that roof he's on.
Astudillo puts that one in fair, rather it was foul. So Astudillo stays alive. That one was close. Either way, it was a good grab by Jay Dillard out at third base. So Astudillo's in an 0-2 count with one out. Astudillo back in the batter's box. He's ready to go. Snyder delivers it, and it's a swing and a miss. Astudillo drops to one knee, and unfortunately the struggles continue for him.
Yeah, Snyder's had a couple of the HiToms players off balance with the breaking ball dropping out of the zone. And they caught Astudillo in just swing mode there, and he swung at the pitch low and outside.
So up comes Jake Coonan, who also struck out in the first inning. He's got two outs to work with here. He swings and misses on that pitch. Snyder sets, delivers the 0-1. It's fouled off into the netting by Coonan.
Yeah, and I think for Snyder, the fastball is just keeping the HiToms players honest, but the breaking ball has really been working for him.
Being 0-2 from Snyder, and Coonan fouls that one just near the HiToms bullpen. Dugout, I should say. His third base coach and head coach, Sean Stevens, looks like he tossed that one back into the HiToms dugout. Snyder takes his time readying the 0-2. 0-2 is hit on by Coonan out to left field near the wall. Running on it is Lackey, and it's over the wall, and Jake Coonan has himself a solo home run. Carter French was out there in left field. He looked up, and then he realized that one's shooting right over the wall, and it's a 3-0 HiToms lead.
Yeah, and Ethan Snyder, he wanted to throw a breaking ball, but that one was hung in Jake Coonan made no mistake about it. He hammered that ball over the tall left field wall. And boy, did he need that for his confidence. One of the best hitters early on for the HiToms. Been in a little bit of a struggle. Maybe that helps lift him out of that.
So it's Dylan Lewis to follow Jake Coonan with 2 outs, and a now 3-0 HiToms lead as Dylan Lewis swings and misses on the pitch.
That's the first extra base hit for Jake Coonan since June the 8th. And his second home run of the season.
So Dylan Lewis falls behind 0-2 now, but that's exactly what happened with Jake Coonan, and he hit a ball out of the park. 0-2 fired in, and Lewis hits this one out to right field. Borowski has got a read on it. He looks up and collects the ball for the 3rd out, but it's a 3rd out that doesn't come without a Jake Coonan solo home run out to left field to make it the HiToms 3, Zookeepers 0. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back to some Coastal Plain League action between the HiToms and Zookeepers. It'll be Carter French's first at-bat in a 3-0 Tommies lead. J. Dill has looked pretty commanding on the bump for the Tommies. It's the last batter in that Zookeepers lineup, and Carter French. He check swings there. It's on the outside, so it's a 2-0 count for French. 0-2 from Dills, a big swing and a miss from French. So he's in a 2-1 count now with no outs. Next delivery from Dill is hit on by French. Out to Coonan. He throws over to Correa at first, and Carter French is safe at first. That one took an awkward little hit off of Jay Dill. He looks to be all right. And Coonan just didn't have enough time to throw that one over to Juan Correa. So the Zookeepers get the leadoff man aboard with the top of the order coming up, and Jay Dillard.
I mean, what a smart play, though, by Jake Coonan to go with the bare hand, because otherwise that play would not have been close. Now it looks like they might check on Jay Dill. No, they're checking with the first base umpire, maybe on the call. I thought he was out by a little bit, but that was just my vantage point. And, of course, it was within a half step, I should say.
So it's HiToms coach Sean Stevens having a chat with our first base umpire. Good thing is Jay Dill does look to be all right. And he just nodded over to pitching coach for the HiToms as well. So he's good to go. As Sean Stevens is still having a conversation with our first base umpire. Can't really think he can overturn the call.
I wonder if he's discussing something else. I mean, you're either safe or out in baseball. We're not reviewing stuff in Somerville.
So the conversation is dismissed. And looking at Sean Stevens' body language. I don't think it was the answers he was looking for.
But it's funny because the HiToms were throwing it around the horn like it was an out, and Jay Kuhn was a little surprised. He kind of bent his legs down with his hands over his head like, wow.
So now Jay Dillard is ready to go. Grounded out in a 4-3. His last at bat in the first inning. And first base umpire makes the call there. It's called for a strike. It was a mediocre check swing there from Jay Dillard. So he's behind 0-1. Carter French is at first for the Zookeepers. The delivery from Dill is near the outside of the plate, but called a strike by our home plate umpire.
And Jay Dill's right back in there, ready to throw as soon as Dillard goes into the batter's box. Dill's going to deliver the pitch.
It's Dill versus Dillard. And Dill opts to throw back to first. It got away from Juan Correa, but not enough for Carter French to run to second base. Jay Dill sets, fires in the 0-2, and it loops low, so it's a 1-2 count now. Cole Laskowski waits in the on-deck circle for the Zookeepers. 1-2 offering from Dill is a swing and a miss, so that retires Jay Dillard, and up comes Cole Laskowski.
And the thing about Jay Dill is he's very tall and lengthy, so the distance to home plate is even less. And his delivery looks the same on his fastball and the breaking ball, and that time got Dillard to chase way out of the zone. And he's been mixing pitches very well so far. And, of course, the Zookeepers haven't seen him.
First one to Laskowski is hit foul behind home plate.
Like, I'm not sure if you throw out a pitcher for 7 innings, if a team has already seen the pitcher before, that usually wouldn't happen, even in Summer League, because they just have too much of a scouting report. But right now, everything's new for these Zookeepers. Harry's on Dill.
French is running to second. Astudillo throws over to second to Kuhn, and it gets away from him. And Carter French just opts to stay at second base. Good work there by Kane Kepley to run quick from the outfield into the infield to recover that one. So Carter French is able to advance over to second base with Cole Laskowski at bat for the Zookeepers.
And I expect Asheboro to be way more aggressive. HiToms have only thrown out one runner the entire year on the base pass, and that came very early on in the season.
Carter French has a lead at second. Delivery from Jay Dill is painted on the outside for a 2-1 count now. Dill gets a sign from Astudillo. Looks over to second. Carter French at second. Delivers the 2-1. It's low on the outside corner, so it's a 3-1 count now with one out. Here in the bottom of the third, HiToms have a 3-0 lead over Asheboro. 3-1 is fired in, and it goes low for a ball, so it's 2 aboard now for the Zookeepers. Laskowski walks over to first base, and Carter French is at second. Tyler McPeak now up to bat. McPeak struck out in the first inning. Left-handed batter in McPeak. Looks at a first pitch called for a strike.
And I love the pitch because Dill's been going fastball first pitch most of the game. That time drops a breaking ball. And it puts him in control that bad when you could drop a breaking ball down looking.
Long look at second from Dill. He turns, fires in the next pitch. McPeak hits one out to left field. Dylan Lewis is running onto it. Carter French is around third. He will score. And McPeak slides into second safely, so it's a 3-1 ball game now off the bat of Tyler McPeak.
Yeah, probably the most dangerous hitter in the Asheboro lineup. He shows it there. His 6th double. and 18 RBIs.
So Carter French was able to score for Asheboro. Olaskowski's now over at third. Tyler McPeak finds himself at second, with Jarrett Pokroski up to bat for the Zookeepers. Another left-hander for Dill to face. And he puts that one into fair territory, collected by Andrew Fernandez. He throws over to first, and another runner was able to score for Asheboro. So it's a one-run game now. Olaskowski was able to score for the Zookeepers, and Tyler Borowski was out over at first.
Great play by Fernandez, going over to his left and making a great stab at that baseball and throwing over to first. Otherwise, that would have tied the game if that got into left field.
So up comes Todd Hudson. Delivery from Dill is low, and Ostadio is able to collect it, throws it back over to Dill.
Now batting, number 25, Todd Hudson.
So Hudson's going to work in a two-out game with Tyler McPeak over at second base. The delivery from Dill goes for a strike, so it's a 1-1 count now. Dill gets the sign, looks at second, and puts the fastball in a 1-1 count. It's fouled off by Hudson. Still ready to go for a 1-2 delivery. He puts that one into the turf. Ostadio is able to collect it, and Tyler McPeak doesn't think about running. So it's twos across the scoreboard here in the bottom of the third inning. It's been a good third inning for Asheboro. They've gotten 2 runs across. The 2-2 from Dill is hit over to first to Juan Correa. He will walk to first base to get the third out, but it's a third out that comes with 2 Asheboro runs, makes it a 3-2 game. The HiToms bats will be back up in the 4th inning. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back between the HiToms and Asheboro. HiToms have now just a narrow 3-2 advantage with Andrew Fernandez up to bat here in the top of the 4th inning. Ethan Snyder still dealing for the Zookeepers. He puts that one low for a ball. And the way things look, there doesn't seem to be any activity in Asheboro's bullpen. So unless something really goes south for Ethan Snyder, he'll probably go all 7. He's recovered well since that first inning that didn't go too well for him. He loaded the bases. But now he's in a 2-1 situation with Andrew Fernandez, who flew out to right field in the second. Fernandez has been a great addition for the Tommies. Maybe not so much with his bat, but definitely with his defense. He's in a hitter's count now at 3-1. Three-one from Snyder is hit on towards second base. Lukowski loses it. Thought he had an easy one there, but doesn't, and it's a base hit for Andrew Fernandez.
And Lukowski was definitely thinking about Fernandez going down the line. It took two giant hops off the turf, and you're thinking about trying to get the runner out at first before fielding the ball, and that's where the air comes into play. He would have had plenty of time, actually, because it just goes so fast on the turf. He just catched and threw it over to first.
Yeah, the turf got him there, or perhaps he may have took his eye off the ball just for a half second, and then the big bounce of the turf. So up comes the top of the order once again for the HiToms. It's Kane Kepley's third time batting, and his first pitch is high for a ball.
And what I've noticed about Kane Kepley throughout these 6 or 7 games, he really just doesn't chase out of the zone, and that's so important as a hitter.
Especially for a leadoff man. He swings and misses there. Kepley tightens the grip on his helmet. He's ready to go for the 1-1 from Snyder. Fernandez is running. The throw over to second base is in time, and Andrew Fernandez is out at second. The tag applied from Alex Lodis.
Yeah, Lodis did a great job getting that ball off the turf. And that's one of those plays, if you throw that on dirt, you have much less of a chance to get someone out. But the turf, it's going to hop somewhat straight for the most part and also speed up compared to dirt. Because Callahan didn't make a great throw, but it was good enough and on line, most importantly, to get Fernandez out.
So the turf has hurt Asheboro and helped him. It hurt Lukowski, it hurt Lukowski as Fernandez was able to reach first, but then it helped Lodis to get Fernandez out at second. And Kane Kepley still at bat for the HiToms in a 3-1 count. Delivery from Snyder is right down the middle, called for a strike.
And it was interesting to send Fernandez with Kepley at the plate, too, because he's just been getting on base so often.
Payoff pitch from Snyder goes low, and he walks yet another batter.
And sometimes that's the risk. You want to put someone in scoring position so they're a base hit away from scoring, but if you didn't send them, it would be first and second, no outs. And obviously, as we know, hindsight's 20/20, especially in a game like baseball.
So Will Verdung's up to bat. He's been walked and struck out thus far in this contest. A contest that the HiToms lead by a run, 3-2. We're in the top of the fourth. Kane Kepley's at first. Dylan Lewis is batting, and his first pitch goes low and outside for ball 1. Next one to Will Verdung. Kane Kepley's running. Verdung puts that one right at the first baseman, Tyler McPeak. He runs over and retires Will Verdung, but Kane Kepley is able to advance to second.
And that was a hit and run, and that was almost to perfection. But unfortunately for the HiToms, McPeak was at the right spot because Lukowski went over to cover second, and there was a giant gap on the right side. And Verdung got the pitch to do it on an outside fastball, but just hit right to the first baseman, McPeak.
Yeah, McPeak wasn't there. That one would have trickled all the way out into right field, but rather it's not. So it's 2 outs for the HiToms with Nolan McCarthy up to bat, and he's already behind 1-0, or 0-1 rather. Kane Kepley's at second. Snyder peers over to him, fires in the 0-1. It once again dips low. It's been happening a lot for Snyder in this one. Puts himself in a 1-1 count facing Nolan McCarthy, who's been walked on 2 occasions. Delivery from Snyder, and McCarthy had to get out of the way of that one. It's a 2-1 count now with 2 outs here in the top of the 4th inning. HiToms lead 3-2. Kane Kepley's got a sharp lead over at second. Snyder delivers. It's just nips off of McCarthy's bat, fouled. Snyder puts in the 2-2. It's on the outside in the left hand for Dallas Callahan to catch, so it's a full count now for Nolan McCarthy. Full count delivery from Snyder is hit foul near the third base coach, Sean Stevens.
And Jay Dill fielding that one. Not too often you see a pitcher, standing up, getting ready to field ground balls when they're expected to go the whole game.
Count remains full for Nolan McCarthy. The delivery from Snyder is hit on, out into the gap in outfield. Kane Kepley's around third base. He will comfortably score, and it's an RBI single for Nolan McCarthy, and it's a 4-2 game.
And that's a really good at-bat by McCarthy, fighting off some more difficult pitches, waiting for the one that was the inner half of the plate and just drove it on the line right out to center field. And the HiToms grab another run. This is a game where it could go back and forth as scoring, so the HiToms want to take advantage of their opportunities.
So Callahan and Snyder are going to have a quick meeting, and out comes the Zookeepers coach as well. Looks to be some light activity in the Zookeepers bullpen, but nothing too intense for a pitching change.
Yeah, McCarthy, in his first game, he had a long double off the left field wall at Forest City. And then he had a home run against the Owls. And now RBI single. So he's going to be slotted in that 3 or 4 spot, you would think. Because his swing is just so short and compact that he can hit the ball anywhere, just like on that line drive out the middle, straight into the ball. And that creates a better chance to hit that coveted line drive that most players try to hit.
I think you'd say the HiToms, almost done the June portion of the season. They're in a good position with the batting lineup. It looks to be pretty established, that 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I think after they've, gone a couple players and sort of changed around the lineup, they're in a good position. That was the second mound meeting for Asheboro. I think it's 5 in a 9-inning game, but how many is in a 7-inning game? Probably still 5, I would guess. But
Juan Correa is up to bat now for the Tommies. The delivery from Snyder is hit foul in the netting by Correa.
Yeah, we know Juan Correa has the power, but he's got to execute, and it really starts with putting the ball in play, because when he hits it, it's very hard in play.
Next one from Snyder goes high for a ball. So it's a 1-1 count with 2 outs and 1 aboard in the form of Nolan McCarthy at first base for the Tommies. 1-1's put in. That one's placed out into right field, but it's right into the glove. A good catch there by Porowski for the 3rd out. So it's now a 4-2 ball game. The Asheboro Bats will be back up in the bottom of the 4th. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back. It's the HiToms and Asheboro Zookeepers facing off here in a West Division matchup. With these teams on the bottom side of the West Division, but a win here would go a long way as the records are pretty tight together, so there's still time to move up in the standings in this first portion of the CPL season. J. Dill still dealing for the HiToms. And he's now dealing to Alex Lodis, who struck out back in the second inning. Next offering from Dill is hit into play, but right to J.D. Suarez. He throws to Juan Correa over to first, and he retires Alex Lodis for 1 out in the bottom of the fourth.
And those are the type of plays that are not easy, but that the HiToms need to make. That was a hard line drive, and gets one of those short hops, which are it's the hardest play to make as infielder, those short hops, but Suarez scoops it cleanly and fires accurate over to first base.
It's been plays like that have haunted the HiToms in recent games. As it's a called strike on Leighton Lackey.
Because if that gets by Suarez, I mean, that could be 2 bases possibly.
There's a big gap out there in outfield, and that is exactly where Lackey hits one into right, and he's got himself a base hit. So the Zookeepers with 1 out have Leighton Lackey at first base and Dallas Callahan, the catcher, up to bat for Asheboro. Dill takes a look at Lackey at first. Juan Correa is ready to catch it if needed. Lackey's running. The throw from Astudillo over to J.D. Suarez is not in time. So good base running there from Leighton Lackey. He's able to get over to second.
Yeah, and Dill did not hold on Lackey super well. And I think Sean Stevens is going to call on his catcher and maybe possibly his infield to discuss this. And
base running, too, has been somewhat of a struggle for the HiToms, too. As we're going to have a quick meeting with Sean Stevens. HiToms bullpen doesn't look too active at the moment.
They're definitely just discussing the holding runners on, 'cause it's been a major issue for the HiToms, and the teams are starting to notice it. It's also interesting, Andy Fernandez not in the meeting with the infield. He must just not have seen, just talking with the umpire.
Would rather have a conversation with our third base umpire.
Or maybe he wasn't called over at all, but
yeah.
It is kind of funny. I'm chatting it up.
Always do wonder what players are talking about, either if it's the position player and the batter on base, or with the umpires, the conversations that are going on.
Yeah, and Andrew's a great guy to talk to, especially since he got here. Great defensively, and just a great guy for the clubhouse.
So we're all set to go now. Dallas Callahan is behind 0-1. Dill gets the sign from Astudillo. Looks over at Lackey at third. Looks twice. Now delivers the pitch on the outside for a ball. So it's a 1-1 count now with 1 out. Lackey still at second base. He's going to throw over, and Lackey comfortably safe. J.D. Suarez did a good job there in running in.
Yeah, maybe the meeting was to try to throw back to second. But I feel like if you're having a meeting, then the base runner maybe knows a little more that they could be trying to backpick him.
Dill fires in. That one goes low. Good blocking there from Astudillo. Doesn't get away from him. It's a 2-1 count now for Callahan. Callahan flew out to left field in the second inning. And you can tell J-Dill's a little uncomfortable with Lackey at second as Callahan puts one in the gap in right field. Lackey's around third. He's being waved home, and he will get home with these. So it's once again just a 1-run game here in the bottom of the fourth. An RBI single by Dallas Callahan. Brings to the plate Carter French.
Yeah, and Dallas Callahan's got to be happy with that. Celebrating the dugout, coming in 5 for 28 with the 1 extra base hit being a homer. And No catchers, it's just an added bonus if you can hit, so that's an added bonus right now for the Zookeepers.
First one to French is called for a strike. So Callahan's over at first. Not taking as an aggressive lead as Lackey did. 0-1 from Dill is going to be hit into foul territory. Andrew Fernandez is looking onto it in the sun, and he makes the catch for the second out. So it's the top of the order now for Asheboro, and Jay Dillard, who has struggled, hasn't reached base yet in 2 plate appearances. Rocking the purple helmet. Callahan's at first. The offering from Dill goes low for a ball. 4-3 game here in the bottom of the 4th. First of a doubleheader here in Asheboro. Dill took a quick peek over at first, nods his head, delivers the 1-0. It's hit into foul territory, right into the HiToms dugout. One now from Dill. Goes high, good glove catch there from Ostadillo. Koliskowski's in the on-deck circle for Asheboro as they called strike there. So it's a 2-2 count now with 2 outs for Jay Dillard. Two-two's on the way from Dill. Ostadillo doesn't even throw over to second because it was called a strike to end the bottom of the 4th. It's a 1-run game. The HiToms 4, Zookeepers 3. We'll head to the 5th. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back. We're now entering the 5th inning. J.D. Suarez will start things off for the HiToms. New pitcher for the Zookeepers. We wasn't sure if Ethan Snyder was going to go the way, but he does not. So it's Itai Spinoza on the bump now for Asheboro, and he delivers to J.D. Suarez on the outside for a ball.
Yeah, 0-1 on the year. This is his 5th appearance. This is 3rd against the HiToms. And so far in 3 innings pitched, he's allowed 7 earned runs.
And he puts himself behind in a 2-0 count on J.D. Suarez.
And the main thing is 4 walks and 2 strikeouts. Not the ideal situation at all.
Out of Elon College. Next delivery from him is called for a strike, so he's in a 2-1 count.
Pitched 1 inning against the HiToms on June 8th. 2 runs, 1 earned, and then a third of an inning against the HiToms gave up 3 earned runs.
Suarez had to jump out of the way of that one, so it's a 3-1 count for J.D. Suarez with Spinoza dealing.
I mean, I just wonder if Spinoza's just going to pitch against the HiToms every game. Every game.
I mean, these two teams do play each other quite a bit more. Main reason because of the proximity of how close they are. Spinoza puts in the 3-1. It's hit on by J.D. Suarez. Gets in the glove of the shortstop. The throw over to first is in time. So great play there by Alex Lodis. He threw over to Tyler McPeak just in time to get J.D. Suarez out.
Yeah, sliding across second base and then a spin throw, and our first base umpire is not happy. I'm not sure about that one either. It looked like he was safe, but... Anyways, I mean, it was a great play by Lodis. And that's why you just fire it over to first as hard as you can. Unless it goes out of play, there's really no harm. Which I guess is a big thing, saying if it goes out of play, because definitely could happen.
And Sean Stevens does not have a look of approval on his face either. He was already having a conversation with our first base umpire earlier about the calls. So that one definitely didn't make him any happier. Dario Astudillo would be happy if he could get a hit here. He struck out both plate appearances thus far. He does get a hit, but it's right into the glove of the second baseman. The throw over to McPeak is in time, and there's 2 quick outs for the Zookeepers.
The second baseman, number 4, Jake Coonan.
So up comes Jake Coonan, who hit the solo home run back in the 3rd inning. It was a home run that he much needed to get some confidence back. Rocking the orange gloves. And he looks at one for a ball. Espinoza deals. Coonan fouls that one into the netting. Espinoza redshirted his first year at Elon. As Coonan takes a brief step out of the batter's box. And he puts that one into play over to Lodis. He fires to first. So 3 groundouts for the HiToms, and it's a quick 1-2-3 5th inning for them. The Zookeepers bats will be back up in the bottom half of the 5th. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And welcome back. We are right now just entering the bottom part of the 5th inning. HiToms taking on the Zookeepers tonight. It'll be a game right after this one, a doubleheader. And then tomorrow, the HiToms will, maybe not their biggest game in the CPL, but their biggest game in the whole calendar year against the national team of Chinese Taipei. Not often does a collegiate baseball, summer baseball team get to play a national team. And a national team that will be taking on the USA baseball team in a few days after that.
Pretty cool stuff.
So J. Dill is dealing pitches now to Cole Laskowski.
And J. Dill's fastball, some extra life on, you can see from, well, you can't see, but Laskowski was way behind. That ball was in Astudillo's glove practically.
Delivery from Dill is just high. Astudillo does a good job of grabbing that one.
But, I mean, there's no action in the HiToms bullpen. Dill's going to try to go through the 5th and the 6th for sure, and possibly even the 7th.
Dill sets and delivers the 1-2. It's hit on by Laskowski. Dylan Lewis is out there and left, and he collects the ball for the first out.
Yeah, Dylan Lewis has had 2 balls out in left field that have been catchable, and both have been within 3 steps.
It's probably the ideal outfielder's day thus far for Dylan Lewis.
And especially not to have someone at bat like Tyler McPeak, who's up now with runners on base.
So up comes McPeak, and Dill delivers to him, and he puts that one just foul down the third base line. McPeak's got the socks all the way almost up to his knees. And the white cleats with a white armband on his right arm. 0-1 from Dill is painted on the outside for a ball, so it's a 1-1 count with 1 out here in the bottom of the 5th. HiToms have a narrow 4-3 lead. 1-1's punched in from Dill, and it's a swing and a miss from McPeak. McPeak got an RBI back in the 3rd. Delivery from Dill is hit foul over us.
Boy, that ball was absolutely hacked at. That pitch was way high out of the zone.
So McPeak took a break out of the batter's box. He's now back in, ready to go. Delivery from Dill is on the outside and the right-hand side for a ball 2.
And it seems like McPeak's just seeing the ball really well, which is unfortunate for Dill and the HiToms.
2-2's on the way from Dill, and that is hit foul into the Zookeepers dugout. Two-two delivery from Dill, swing and a miss, or rather it was a foul tip. Astudillo throws over to Juan Correa, and McPeak is retired at first base. So HiToms do a good job on the dangerous Tyler McPeak to get him out, and there's 2 away in the bottom of the 5th.
Yeah, and that's where Dill's got to go, because McPeak was just hacking, and you don't want to give him anything in the zone, really, or something good to hit. And instead, it's a strikeout on a drop 3 swing.
So up comes Jarrett Pokrowski. Dill's first offering to him in the 5th goes low for a ball. Next one from Dill is put on the outside, so it's a 1-1 count. Two outs for the HiToms, and Pokrowski puts one out into right. McCarthy is onto it. He makes the catch, and there's 3 outs now. So the HiToms get out of the inning, and it remains a 1-run game. HiToms 4, Zookeepers 3. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Back here now in the 6th inning between the HiToms and Zookeepers. HiToms have a 4-3 lead. Dylan Lewis will start things off in the bottom of the order for the Tommies. Itas Spinoza still on the bump for the Zookeepers. He's going to go into his 2nd inning of work. Spinoza in the spring had an ERA of 15.75, so kind of struggled at times in 6 appearances.
Yeah, but it was only in 4 innings, but of course the ERA gets a little overblown. But yeah, Spinoza just trying to get some more reps here in the Coastal Plain.
Now he goes ahead, 0-2 on Dylan Lewis. (0-2) from Spinoza is on the outside, so 1-2 count with no outs. Just starting off this 6th inning. Dylan Lewis flew out to right field his last time up, and he's now in a 2-2 count.
And it's Spinoza's misses just aren't generating a ton of swing and misses. And that's where you get the strikeouts that come in, chasing out of the zone.
Next one from Spinoza is on the outside of the zone, so after Dylan Lewis went behind 0-2, he's now in a full count.
Yeah, none of those last 3 pitches were close, and that's the problem. If you're going to get a chase pitch, a little bit lower than the zone, a little bit more outside, they've kind of just been all over the place, way away from the plate, which doesn't really entice a hitter to swing.
Payoff from Spinoza, and he walks Dylan Lewis, so 1 aboard with no outs for the HiToms. Brings up Andrew Fernandez.
And the switch hitter this time hitting from the right side, which we really haven't seen often this year. I don't have the numbers, but it feels like he's been swinging lefty most of the year, probably because most of the pitchers have been righty.
Both Fernandez and Lewis took a look at Sean Stevens, and I think it was perhaps for Lewis to get the okay to try and steal second.
He's not the fastest guy in the world, though. I'll tell you that.
Spinoza takes a long look at Lewis, delivers the pitch to Fernandez, and he chops that one foul towards the Zookeepers dugout. Spinoza throws over to first. It gets away, and Dylan Lewis is going to run over to second comfortably. And Coach Sean Stevens is putting him over to third. It's not in time. Lewis, he doesn't opt to go home, and it was probably the right decision, but that was just bad play from the Asheboro all around.
I mean, that was one of the more confusing plays. First of all, McPeak kind of got caught up in Dylan Lewis's slide, and then Dylan Lewis was standing on second base, not realizing he could have gone to third. With a better throw or maybe a better hop off the turf, he would have been out. But that's the difference on the turf. The ball hops away down the first base line. The throw goes back to third, and it bounces a little too high to handle for Dillard.
So Spinoza did not have a good throw over to McPeak. That allowed Lewis to then get to second and then third. So he's at third base after all that, and Andrew Fernandez is in an 0-1 count. Delivery from Spinoza is once again fouled to the right-hand side by Fernandez.
In those errors and the base running, it's stuff that decides baseball games. We've seen it already in this game. Stolen bases from the Zookeepers. That time, it's an error and an extra base given up to the HiToms.
Next one from Spinoza is in foul territory again from Fernandez. Andrew Fernandez has the helmet with, I guess you could say, almost a NFL football helmet-like mouth guarding. It's just to protect Fernandez after he suffered an injury.
Yeah, and he wears a mask in the field, which is probably even harder because you're already wearing a helmet when you're batting. Just adding a mask to it's not really a problem.
0-2 from Spinoza is a swing and a miss from Fernandez, and he's retired. So 1 away with Dylan Lewis at third base for the top of the HiToms order.
But there's a much-needed insurance run out there 90 feet away from Lewis. And if there was someone to take that extra bag, you weren't expecting it to be Lewis, but it got far enough away, and it was a good read by Lewis once he realized he could have gone to third.
So Kane Kepley has scored on 2 occasions in this game. He looks at a first pitch low on the outside for ball 1. Spinoza kicks, delivers. That one again is on the outside for ball 2. And there's going to be a mound visit between Callahan and Spinoza.
Yeah, and for Spinoza this year, he's gone an inning and a third one time. And the other 3 outings have been an inning, a third of inning, and a third of inning. So it's safe to say this is a little bit of uncomfortable territory for Spinoza.
Right now, there is nobody in the Zookeepers bullpen warming up, so they're going to put faith in number 2 on the mound.
And it's probably because they have another 7 innings coming up, 30 minutes after this game, and don't want to burn another arm, as that's the 3rd mound visit for Asheboro.
So the right-handed hitter in Kane Kepley is ready to go in a hitter's count, 2-0. And that one's called a strike. Spinoza places the 2-1 on the outside, so it's a 3-1 count with 1 out. Dylan Lewis at third base for the HiToms.
Yeah, and this is a Kane Kepley hitter's count.
Leadoff man Kepley looks at this one. It is in fair territory. The throw to home is bobbled by our catcher, and he's safe. So Callahan is not happy. He did bobble that ball, and almost he's wondering if he's saying there was interference by Lewis off the slide. But
yeah.
Either way, it's another HiToms run. It's a 5-3 game.
Yeah, I know Spinoza's arguing the call. That was not even close. It was not close. Lewis was in there ahead of the tag. When you bobble the ball, you have to gain full possession and then put a tag down. That did not happen in time. Originally, if he caught it off the hop, he would have been out for sure. And Dillard, I think if he set his feet a little more, he could have just made a strong throw right on a line and would have easily gotten Lewis, who was going on contact, and would have cut him down at home. Now there's a discussion, but, I mean, this is, first of all, I don't think he can get overturned. Second of all, I'm almost positive Dylan Lewis was safe there because he slid down with his right foot, and that hit the plate before Callahan regathered the ball completely and then put a tag down.
And Lewis was able to score really off of just poor infield throwing by Asheboro. It allowed him to get all the way over to third and then get home.
Yeah, and underrated that Kane Kepley's on first base. So they decide to try to cut down the runner at home because it's a 7-inning game, and now Kane Kepley's on first base with speed.
With Will Verdung up to bat for the HiToms. First one to Verdung is way outside. Callahan had to get out of his position and reach for that one. So safe to say Spinoza looks rather uncomfortable in this top half of the 6th. Kepley's got a lead at first. Spinoza's eyeing him down, delivers the pitch to Verdung, and it's called a strike. Verdung taps his bat on the bag. He's ready to go for the 1-1 offering. It's down the middle low, though, so it's a 2-1 count now. Spinoza taking some time in between each pitch. Verdung's ready to go. Spinoza delivers the 2-1. Just cuts on the outside. 3-1 count now.
And this is where Verdung likes to swing those 2-0, 3-1 counts. Looking fastball. Looking near the middle of the plate.
3-1 for Will Verdung, and he is walked. So it puts Kane Kepley at second and Will Verdung at first, with Noah McCarthy up to bat for the HiToms in a 1-out top of the 6th inning. HiToms have a 5-3 lead over Asheboro.
And you're wondering if the HiToms try to pull off a double steal here. First of all, you eliminate the double play ball, and then you put 2 in scoring position. I think one of these first few pitches, the HiToms could try to steal a couple extra bases. And especially with Kane Kepley on second, they're probably going to look towards third. Kane Kepley's the fastest guy on the HiToms roster.
5 HiToms batters have been walked tonight thus far, or 6, I believe. So that's what Asheboro's somewhat struggled with, as Noah McCarthy fouls that one back. McCarthy got an RBI single his last time up. He could do the same here. He looks at that one, called for a strike. He falls behind 0-2. Takes a quick jog just around the batter's box, is now back in and ready to go. Spinoza eyes down his catcher, Callahan. Looks back at second. Takes another look, now delivers the 0-2. Hit in to right field. It takes a hop in front of Porowski. And going home is Kepley, and he is comfortably safe, so it's now a 6-3 game. So it's yet another RBI single for Nolan McCarthy.
And that's why, as a base runner, you need to be prepared. As Kepley got, first of all, a really good read on that ball. And with McCarthy serving into right field, had plenty of room to score standing up. But after the great read, Kepley decided to turn third and go home and was easily in there. So the HiToms looking to add on to this lead.
They can do it with Juan Correa. First one to Correa is high and outside. Callahan did a good job jumping up and collecting that ball. So with one out, HiToms have Wilver Dung over at third and Nolan McCarthy at first. J.D. Suarez in the on-deck circle awaiting this Juan Correa at-bat. The 1-0 from Spinoza is a swing and a miss from Correa. Correa quickly ready to go for the 1-1 offering. It's put on the outside, so count goes to 2-1. Correa, big frame in that batter's box. Delivery from Spinoza is swung and missed from Correa, so a 2-2 count.
And that was the first time Correa's really been able to handle that breaking ball, trying to get the timing down because, if he makes contact, it's going to be hit hard.
Spinoza punches in the 2-2. It's on the outside. McCarthy is running. It's over the second baseman, and that allows Wilver Dung to comfortably cruise home to make it a 7-3 game. Not a good throw there from Callahan to Laskowski.
And even if McCarthy's out second, you just put the pressure on the defense. And we've seen this happen to the HiToms this year. You put the pressure on the defense to make a play. They make an error. You capitalize off of it. That's what the HiToms did. And they get the bonus of McCarthy being safe at second.
So McCarthy's at second. 7-3 game for Juan Correa in a full count. Payoff pitch from Spinoza is on the outside. And once again, the HiToms have men at first and second with J.D. Suarez coming up to bat.
And with the meeting here, you got to feel for Spinoza because a lot of the damage has not been his fault. It's been the errors in the infield and a couple of bad breaks for the Zookeepers that have gone the HiToms' way. But, a lot of times as you're going out for your second inning with Spinoza, I mean, this is the second time he's working into his second inning of work. Gets a little more difficult as more of the HiToms hitters are knowing what he throws, and especially it's your third time facing the team. The HiToms, have the scouting report on Spinoza.
So it looks like that'll be it for Spinoza, so he doesn't go long once again, as there will be a new Zookeepers pitcher. We'll get all the information for him as the HiToms are threatening here in the top portion of the sixth. It was in HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back here. We're in the top of the 6th. HiToms threatening with J.D. Suarez coming up to bat. New pitcher for the Zookeepers and Drew Signer. Signer out of Campbell University. Just wrapped up. Looks like he redshirted actually his freshman year. So he's ready to go against J.D. Suarez. First pitch is low for a ball. HiToms have Noah McCarthy at second, Juan Correa over at first. Delivery from Signer is again put on the outside for a ball.
Now, Drew Signer on the year. He's pitched 3 innings, has allowed 6 runs, all earned, 6 hits, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts.
It's a 2-0 count for J.D. Suarez. Delivery from Signer is hit foul by Suarez and right into his foot, it looked like.
And the HiToms are 1 hit away from breaking this game open. And this is why the 7-inning thing is so tough, because, you know, Asheboro is playing their defense so tight, like keeping the HiToms away from trying to score that 1 run, and that's where, you know, you create errors. And in a 9-inning game, maybe you don't think about throwing home on that play to Lewis.
J.D. Suarez swings and misses, so it's a 2-2 count now, as it looked like our home plate umpire took maybe a whack to the face. Hopefully he's all right. It was a foul tip from J.D. As now there's someone from the Zookeeper staff going to check on him as he looks a little shooken up. So HiToms have a game right after this, and then Chinese Taipei at Truist Point on Wednesday, and then a doubleheader on Thursday against the Mustangs. So it's a busy time for the Tommies. As our home plate umpire is still being looked at, and hopefully he's all right and able to step back into this game. Fans giving a nice round of applause to our home plate umpire, who looks to be all right. Now just looks like having a laugh with J.D. Suarez and Dallas Callahan. J.D. Suarez, great guy to talk to, so I could imagine the conversations they're having.
Yeah, and recently committed to the College of Charleston from Charlotte, so big congratulations to him. And he's been hitting the ball well for the HiToms. Started off a little slow, but then it's been really hitting his stride as of recently.
So the new Charleston man hits that one foul.
Whew. I mean, there was a double steal on possibly. McCarthy was easily going to reach the third, but Suarez protecting with 2 strikes.
McCarthy over at second base. Correa is at first. In a 7-3 game in the top of the 6th. 1 out for J.D. Suarez. McCarthy is really ready to run. Delivery is from Seegers. Again, hit fouled by J.D. Suarez. So Suarez staying alive in a 2-2 count. Grounded out his last time up. Pats his helmet down. Low squat from Suarez. He's ready to go for the 2-2, but Seeger opts to throw back to second. McCarthy is comfortably safe. It's Cole Laskowski who's occupying at second base and keeping a close eye on McCarthy. Delivery from Seeger gets on the outside, so it's a full count now for J.D. Suarez. Seeger gets the sign, now steps off the bag, and will reset the full count pitch. Payoff delivery from Seeger is put on the outside, and the HiToms have the bases loaded here in the 6th inning with Dario Astudillo coming up to bat. It's yet another walk by the Zookeepers. It's plagued them all game.
Yeah, the HiToms have had 3 with Dill in total, compared to 9 walks. 9 walks, and not even 6 innings. It's hard to win.
The last 2 batters in this inning have been walks, so Dario will look to keep that trend going. Seeger's delivery to Astudillo is on the outside for a ball.
And you're just putting yourself behind the counts, and then you're forced to throw a pitch that's, exactly where the hitter wants it to drive the baseball.
So Noel McCarthy's at third. Delivery from Seeger is into the turf, and Noel McCarthy's going to run home. The turf gets the Zookeepers once again, and it is an 8-3 to game. Noel McCarthy able to run home after the poor delivery by Seeger that Callahan couldn't quite collect. So it now brings J.D. Suarez over to second, and Juan Correa at third.
Yeah, Drew Seeger he overthrew that ball. Looked like he was trying to put all of what he had in the tank into that baseball and just spiked it. And the HiToms have gotten a lot of runs on some of the errors by Asheboro.
Astudillo can look to hit here in a 2-0 count. That one's put low on the outside, so it's 3-0 for Dario Astudillo with 2 on for the HiToms. Delivery from Seeger is put low. A little bit of a delayed call there maybe, as the bases are once again loaded for the Tommies.
And you feel like this was a situation, now stepping up to the plate being Jake Coonan. He was in really early in the season. Remember, he had 2 or 3 opportunities with the bases loaded.
And the Zookeepers, I think, have themselves in a bit of a pinch with pitchers. They don't have anyone warming up, and the main reason because of that is because they got to play another game at the conclusion of this one. Coonan hit a home run earlier in this one. He's in a 1-0 count, nearly gets hit. Was able to duck out of the way. Puts him up 2-0. With 1 out, the delivery from Seeger is hit on by Jake Coonan. It will be another RBI in this game as a bit of a mix-up in the outfield. Bases remain loaded. Juan Correa was able to score. It is now 9-3 HiToms. With Tommies running through the order, it's Dylan Lewis back up to bat.
And it's crazy, before this inning started, this was just a 1-run game, and some HiToms taking some pitches that are way out of zone, and then that base hit from Jake Coonan putting up already a 5 spot in this 6th inning.
So Dylan Lewis was walked his first time up, and here comes another mound visit for the Zookeepers. And this is just not what anyone in the Asheboro camp wanted to see in a doubleheader. The pitching, the bullpen just not holding up.
Yeah, and French also bobbled that ball in left field, and J.D. Suarez probably could have tried to go home, but, I mean, there's no reason with the free passes they're giving up. This feels like how the HiToms lost games was with walks, with errors. The other team being aggressive on the base pass, and the HiToms are flipping the script.
So no change of pitcher for Asheboro. Just a visit for Drew Seeger, with Dylan Lewis batting for the Tommies. What is becoming a really beautiful night here in Asheboro. 79 degrees, perfectly blue skies, a few clouds, but none of them rain, so that is good news. Delivery from Seeger to Lewis is on the outside. Seeger lost his hat on that one. So really nothing going well for Drew Seeger. Bases loaded for the HiToms. J.D. Suarez is at third. Dario Astudillo is at second. Jake Coonan's at first as Lewis fouls that one back. And once again, Seeger loses his hat. So it's a 1-1 count now for Dylan Lewis. Delivery from Seeger is called for a strike. And well, Drew Seeger's having a problem with command and pitching right now, and also holding on to his hat. Here comes the 1-2 to Dylan Lewis, put on the outside, so 2-2 count with 1 out. And what has been a taxing top half of the 6th for the Zookeepers. It's a 9-3 ball game. Here comes the 2-2. Hit on by Lewis into the glove of the third baseman. He throws home. I don't know if that was the best choice. And the call is out. So it turns out to be the right decision. Good work there by Dallas Callahan to reach for that one. The throw by Jay Dillard wasn't the best as Callahan had to go full stretch, but he was able to get J.D. Suarez out at home.
I think the thing is you try to either turn the double play, but with Dillard coming in on a softly hit ball for the most part and charging, his momentum was already going towards home.
Bases still loaded for Andrew Fernandez. Dylan Lewis is at first, Jake Coonan's at second, and Dario Astudillo's over at third. And a 2-out, 9-3 top six as Andrew Fernandez fouls another ball behind the grandstands into the construction zones here at Asheboro Park. Next one from Seager is a swing and a miss from Fernandez. Seems to be some moderate activity in the HiToms bullpen. See if Jay Dill is still out there in the bottom portion of the sixth.
I feel like this is all the more reason to throw him out there, as crazy as it sounds, but consider some arms and you have a 6-run cushion right now.
Fernandez puts that one into play. It's over to Laskowski. He pops it out over to first, and that ends the top half of the sixth. But it doesn't end without the HiToms jumping out to a 9-3 lead. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back. It's the HiToms and Asheboro Zookeepers. HiToms have a big 9-3 lead here in the bottom half of the sixth. Zookeepers got some work to do. And we'll start off with Todd Hudson. Jay Dill is still dealing for the HiToms.
Leading off the bottom of the sixth inning for the Zookeepers, the designated hitter, Todd Hudson.
Dill has looked strong throughout this game. Puts one into Hudson, and it over to our third base umpire for the call, and it's deemed a ball. We got a nice round of applause from the Zookeepers third base coach. 2-0 from Dill is hit foul down left field over the HiToms bullpen.
And I will say, there's only, A few plays that really changed this game. It was on the Zookeepers side. They had 4 errors, including 3 in the top of the 6th inning. That's a big game changer.
Next one from Dill's called a strike, so 2-2 count now for Hudson, who's grounded out 6-3, and then back in the 2nd inning flew out to right. So 2-2 offering from Dill is called for a strike, and it's a shake of a head from Hudson. He didn't like that call, so 1 away for the Zookeepers.
Coming to the plate is shortstop number 30, Alex Lowe.
But a lot of times, that's what happens when you're around the plate. You get certain calls. I thought that was, borderline. But for Asheboro, they weren't really throwing it near the zone, so there was really no chance for it to be called a strike.
So here's Alex Lodis for the Zookeepers. He pops one out. It's up to it. Fernandez is running onto it, and he makes the grab. Looked like Jay Dill maybe was calling for it, but Fernandez did a good job of running over and grabbing that one for the 2nd out.
Yeah, that's a smart play to call off your pitcher, getting off that mound, and then, backing up to catch a pop out. It's not easy. Fernandez with a very, very smart play.
So Zookeepers, HiToms are rolling right through the Zookeepers lineup. Leighton Lackey's now batting with 2 outs. He puts that one foul.
And the reason is that Jay Dill is just firing in strikes. Right now he's at 55 strikes, 33 balls, 88 pitches total.
Dill's 89th pitch to Lackey goes low for a ball. So 1-1 count for Leighton Lackey. Dill gets the sign from Ostadillo and deals the pitch. Just put on the outside, low on the outside for ball 2. In a 9-3 HiToms lead, Jay Dill sets, fires, and that one is just painted on the outside. For a 3-1 count. Dill sets, delivers the next one, and he walks Leighton Lackey with 2 outs. So Leighton Lackey's going to hop over to first, and Dallas Callahan, the catcher, will be up to bat.
And the funny thing about this game is the HiToms are up 6 runs, but they're just out hitting Asheboro 6-4.
And you feel at this stage of the season, that's kind of how the HiToms have to win games, unless you get a strong performance like they're having from Jay Dill tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to take advantage of their opponent's mistakes because that's what people did with the HiToms when they were hot early on.
Dill throws over to Juan Correa just to check on Leighton Lackey, who's still at first. Dill sets, fires. That one's put in the air by Callahan. Up over it is Kepley. He makes the grab for the 3rd out. We'll go to the 7th. It'll be the last time, hopefully, for the HiToms in this first half of a doubleheader. They lead 9-3. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back here in the final inning of play in this doubleheader. Top portion of the 7th. The top half of the order for the HiToms. going to be Kane Kepley's 5th plate appearance tonight. He's scored on 3 occasions, so it's been another impressive performance from Kane Kepley. And Drew Siegner still on the bump for the Zookeepers. He delivers to Kepley. He puts that one in foul territory. Running onto it is the third baseman, Jay Dillard, and what a catch that is. Great hustle play there from Jay Dillard, throwing all the way over to the HiToms dugout to make the grab for the first out.
And a smart play there by Dillard to slow up once he got near the HiToms. Now going to make a fantastic catch.
So it brings in the DH man, Will Verdung. Verdung was walked on his last occasion and was able to score what was a great 6th inning for the HiToms. It's why they have this 9-3 lead. First one to Verdung's called for a strike. Siegner puts one over Verdung's head for a ball. Siegner puts in the 1-1, swing and a miss by Will Verdung, so he's behind 1-2. Siegner sets, fires in. That one's hit foul by Will Verdung. Way foul into the construction area.
And Will Verdung has a 7-game hitting streak on the line, although I think it's a little unfair that it could end in a 7-inning game.
He puts that one up into center field. Leighton Lackey's calling for it, and he is able to collect it for the 2nd out in this game. So a pop out and a fly out will bring 2 outs for Noah McCarthy. Noah McCarthy's had a great day. He's got 2 RBIs, and he's been walked on 2 occasions. And his first one in this inning is outside for a ball. Siegner sets, fires. That one's skied in the air. All the Zookeepers infield's running onto it, and they are able to collect it for the 3rd out. So a quick 1-2-3 inning for the HiToms in this top portion of the 7th. The final inning of play will be coming up right after this. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back to the final inning of play in the bottom of the 7th in this doubleheader between the HiToms and Zookeepers. New pitcher for the Tommies making his HiToms debut is Jackson Nove out of Kentucky. His first delivery is on the outside.
That's play number 6, Carter French.
Carter French is who he faces out of Kentucky. Just wrapped up his sophomore season. Throws another one, a ball. In the sophomore season, made 18 appearances. And an ERA of 22, just about, so pretty solid. 22 innings pitched, ERA of 4.43. He's behind 2-1 here as French puts that one right into the glove of Andrew Fernandez for the first out.
And I'm a bit surprised they didn't throw Dill out for the 7th, but of course, this is a perfect opportunity to get Nova introduced to CPL baseball, but he did a great job this recent season in Kentucky.
So up comes Jay Dillard with 1 out for Jackson Nove to deal, and he swings and misses on that one.
In the modern day, they call that a sword. Absolutely just ties the hitter up. That's what Nove did there to Dillard.
So Nove, a big frame on the bump for the HiToms. He's 6'5", 200 pounds, out of Fairfax, Iowa. A left-hander. Excited to have him here as Dillard pops one out, running onto it, and making the grab is Nolan McCarthy. Great effort there to get the second out for the HiToms in this bottom half of the 7th.
They call that Wildcats helping Wildcats. Wow, what a recovery by McCarthy. The jump he got on that ball and just snaps it right above the turf.
So the Zookeepers' last hope in this first game of a doubleheader is Cole Laskowski. He flew out to left field his last time up. He's ahead 1-0 here with 2 outs. Nove deals to him just on the outside, so it's 2-0 with 2 outs. HiToms have a 9-3 lead. Nove sets and delivers. That one was right down the middle. No swing at all from Laskowski, and it's a 2-1 count. Quick recovery by Nove, and he throws one just high for ball 3.
And interestingly enough, his last appearance actually came against Florida.
Florida, who recently just fell to LSU in the College World Series. Full count now for Laskowski. Payoff pitch now, and it is a swing and a miss. So that ends the first game between the HiToms and Zookeepers. HiToms win 9-3. Adam, any final thoughts on this first half of a doubleheader?
I mean, it was a good performance by the HiToms, but it's more of the Zookeepers' errors that the HiToms really took advantage of. So it was a great job hitting the ball and putting it in play, but sometimes it just comes down to the opposing team not playing well. And for the Zookeepers, they're trying to turn around the second game. And we'll have that right here on YouTube, but a different link.
Yeah, very important. We're going to mute our mics for about 30 minutes. It'll be a new link, so same process as always. Just go to the HiToms YouTube page, click that second link. It will say second game of a doubleheader between the HiToms and Zookeepers. This first game of a doubleheader finishes the HiToms 9, Zookeepers 3. So don't go anywhere. New link for the second game in just about 30 minutes. But for right now, you've been listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network.